Greetings, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Critical Podcast. I'm your host, Jimmy Good, and joining me this week is an incredibly special guest, my friend Christine, a.k.a. Ivy Winter. Christine, how are you doing?
I am doing great. I'm excited to be back. I'm excited to hear your thoughts on things. It's going to be a very exciting episode.
Yeah, I'm glad to, because what we've been doing now for a while is I love having people on the show, as I always have. And Christine, you've been on plenty of times now. It's always a treat. It's always a pleasure. And please, I'll say this at the end too, but go check out her channel, Ivy Winter, over on YouTube. She talks about a bunch of Disney stuff. And as you can see, I'm a Disney guy. And I love talking about that. We're not going to talk too much Disney today, though, because I like to give Christine an ability to not just be a Disney person for like 5 seconds. But we're talking about one of Christine's favorite movies today, which is A Pop Star, Never Stop, Never Stopping. I can't believe I got the title right. I was looking at it because I kept wanting to say never stop, never popping or something. But anyway, this is one of your favorite films, just in general. And maybe for those who don't know about it, tell us why you love it. Tell us what it's about.
Sure. So this movie came out, I want to say it was 2016.
Very good. Yeah, you're right.
And I am very picky about comedies, super picky. A lot of the movies that people love, I just don't find it funny. This just isn't for me. And so when I love a comedy, it's a big deal because I don't really gravitate to a lot of the big ones. I don't know, Pineapple Express and all those things that came out. I wasn't really actually a big Judd Apatow fan, which is interesting because he has actually some, he actually worked on this movie. But so when I came across this movie, I actually saw it with Rob in theaters.
Oh, really?
Because Rob, like me, is a really big fan of who is in it. And so this movie is created by The Lonely Island, which is Andy Samberg and two of his childhood friends who also wrote for Saturday Night Live when he was on Saturday Night Live. So even though Andy was kind of the face of a lot of the music that they were writing for the digital shorts, his two friends did a lot of the writing. And as a trio, they're The Lonely Island, and they put out full albums of the stuff that came out on Saturday Night Live.
Yeah.
And so I've been a long time fan of them. We're talking all the way from the first digital short Lazy Sunday, all the way up to now. And I was following this movie before it even came out. That's how big of a fan I am. And so was Rob. And we were we're so excited because we knew this meant more music. And I find their music hilarious and yet oddly incredibly catchy.
Mm-hmm.
If you took the absurd context out of their songs and they were just regular pop songs, you'd be wow, this is a radio hit, except it's not because their humor is ridiculous. And we went to see it in theaters. We loved it. And it bombed. It did. It just didn't, people just didn't go see it. It just did not do well in the box office. Most people I know didn't even know it came out, didn't even know it existed. And I have just been such a strong proponent for this movie. I've introduced it to people who were just oh, this is whatever. And most people I've shown it to love it. I showed it to my husband. He loved it. He showed it to his in-laws. His parents, sorry, my in-laws, they loved it. I showed it to my brother, and he but people are I don't know what this is. And then they get into it and they're oh, this is really great. So the whole premise of the movie is a mockumentary. It's kind of I like to say that it is the late 2000s version of Spinal Tap. If you've ever seen that,
yeah.
It's the same sort of idea of we're following around a band, or in this case, a single pop star, and it's shot like a documentary. And the idea is that Andy Samberg plays this character Connor for real. He used to be in this rap group with the other two that are very much like the Beastie Boys. That's kind of the vibe that they give. And then he goes off on his own to do a solo career because they have a falling out. And so it's supposed to follow like him launching his next album and like how big it's going to be. And it doesn't do so well, it bombs. So then they try to like bring on another rapper. And it's basically it's just making fun of pop music, I feel like.
Yeah.
Like the title itself is actually making fun of a Justin Bieber documentary that came out like a couple of years prior. The music itself is references so many different kinds of popular music over the years. So like all of the songs, like you can kind of tell like what artists they're trying to emulate. And that's it. I mean, it's just like a really fun, ridiculous movie. It's got Tim Meadows in it. Who else is in it from Saturday Night Live? She's trying to sell the fridges. I'm blanking on who it is.
Maya Rudolph.
Yes, Maya Rudolph.
Yeah.
Is in it. Of course, because they have that Saturday Night Live poll, right? So like get all these like comedians.
Yeah.
The one comedian who plays like the younger, cooler rapper that like joins him on his tour, is not actually, he's not like a big name, but he's really, really funny in this movie. That's like how I discovered him. And of course it has an amazing soundtrack because that's what they do. They like put out music for this. And I obsessively listen to the album all the time because I think it's so great. But it's just absolutely nonsense. Like I don't try to pretend that it's anything, but I actually think there's like a weird heart to the movie and the story that you kind of don't expect.
Oh, totally.
Because you just assume like these guys are just gonna come up with absurd humor and like that's it. But there's actually like, kind of touching moments there. And Michael Bolton. So, and Justin Timberlake. Oh my God, I'm like remembering all these great people who were in this movie. Yep. It's such a good movie.
Yeah. I feel like that's one thing that it would be hard if you don't know about the music industry or like these kind of famous people. Like there's a lot of that in this. And if you don't get the joke that like you make Justin Timberlake into like his personal chef and Justin Timberlake tries to sing at one point, they're like, hey, shut up. Like just go back to counting carrots. And it's like, that's really funny if you know within the confines. And I think it's even funnier too that he's in it because it's like a little bit almost of like his trajectory of like from NSYNC where it's like he went off and did his own thing and he's like, I would never go back to like, the group of NSYNC. So I thought they were going to make a joke about that and they just never did. And I was like, he's right there.
Yeah. But it's there.
Yeah. They have like Adam Levine as like a hologram and stuff.
Oh my
and
God.
It's like,
yes.
I was like, oh my gosh. Okay.
Seal's in it.
Yeah. Seal's in it. I think I remember seeing a trailer for it with Seal in it and the wolves and stuff. I might be wrong because I saw that moment and I was like, oh yeah, I remember this thing. And I was like, oh yeah, it's so weird. Like Bill Hader's in it really briefly as like the guitar guy. So and I just watched Barry, so I'm just like it was really weird. I was like, it was very different. But so this is one of your favorite like comedies, one of your favorite movies of all time.
Yeah, I mean, and it's one of those things where it's heartbreaking that I know that it didn't do well. Like I wanted it to do well because I actually do think it's a really funny movie, but most people just don't know it enough to like give it a chance. But it is a movie that like I can just throw on whenever and I will always just sit down and watch it and laugh. Like there's just, I think the writing is really good. And yeah, I don't know. I just love it. It's just so absurd and I love it.
Good. I'm glad you love it because I think it's garbage. No, I'm just kidding. I was like, I'm just going to say that to it just as a joke. I wish I could have watched it like any comedy. I think it works better with a group, because like you get other people who are laughing at things and like sometimes somebody else finds something that's really funny. Like you mentioned Pineapple Express in the beginning. I saw that in theaters with friends and one of my friends was like, he was like upset that we were all laughing so much, which made it even funnier. So like that kind of thing, I think like it perpetuates the hilarity of a situation. So there's like a few times I was like, oh, I get what they're going for here. And it was very much like kind of like what I expected, but I wanted to give it a fair shake because I was like, you know what, Christine, this is one of her favorite movies. And
I know, but you also said you aren't a big Andy Samberg fan going in.
I tried. So, here's the reason. And as I told you off air, I know a guy in real life who looks and sounds just like him. And I know that I shouldn't hold that against him. And I watched a few seasons of Brooklyn Nine-Nine, and he was like maybe my least favorite character on that show because I liked everybody else more because I thought there was more interesting things about it. I know, I'm sorry.
He does get better. I will say this. First season, Jake Peralta, his character is like fine.
Yeah.
he actually gets better as a character.
Okay.
I agree that the other ones are definitely stronger.
Yeah, I just like Captain Holt. I was like, oh, he's so much more.
Oh, I love
interesting.
Captain Holt. Not to diverge.
Yeah, exactly. But so this film, I thought it was interesting to like see the, like, it almost felt like a behind the scenes almost on like Lonely Island in a sense, because it was kind of like a little bit. And I thought some of it, there was stuff in this movie that made me, it was more like scoff at like how ridiculous it was. And I think a lot of that came in the form of his second album being like him completely out of touch and just like writing songs that are like hyper offensive or just like make no sense at all. And I was like, oh, okay, like he can get away with this in the like the confines of this film because it's just like a complete joke. And like later on he understands that he's like, oh yeah, that was really offensive and I shouldn't have done that. But some of that stuff was pretty funny, and it's just like absurdist, you know, like some of the stuff that happens, you're like, oh my gosh, this is happening now.
Yeah, like the wolves. The wolves thing is probably the most absurd. Like, and there's a lot of absurd things that happen in that movie. I think that is one of the most absurd scenes because you're just like, I don't understand what's or the bee scene where they cut the camera.
Yeah.
And you just hear. So here's what's. I mean, yeah, that one was kind of ridiculous.
That was ridiculous.
The funny thing is they came out with a special edition Blu-ray, which I do not have. But an artist created a lithograph of what he thought that scene looked like. So it's this amazing lithograph of his character and Tim Meadows' character with the flamethrower and the giant queen bee, and like that comes as part of the Blu-ray. And I thought that was really cool. But like it's kind of a stupid gag to be like this big amazing thing is happening, and of course the cameraman shut off the camera and you can't see it. You know, ha ha ha. But I mean, aside from that, and the wolf thing was just like, where did that even come from?
Yeah.
I don't know was that like Seal's idea? Who even knows?
Yeah, I saw that image and I was so excited because it got to that portion and I was like, maybe they're going to cut back and it's just going to be like him with like a flamethrower fighting off like giant bees or something. I was like, this is going to be incredible. And then it just doesn't. And I was like, like I get it. Like it's a budget thing. And this movie had a budget, I think, of like $20 million roughly. That's what I looked up. And it made about $9 million at the box office.
So sad.
Yeah, and usually we double the budget for marketing, but there wasn't a ton of marketing behind this one, so
there wasn't, and I also think that didn't help either. Yeah. They really didn't like, and like I said, I was following it because I'm a fan, and even that, it was like not easy to find a lot of information leading up to the movie. I don't remember there being like a lot of trailers before other movies or any of that. So, I definitely don't. I don't think that helped, but
yeah, I'm not sure too. Like, I feel like this happens with a lot of like Saturday Night Live like joints, and this was not necessarily that, but it felt like that, where they kind of are like, all right, they pull in the other comedians, they'll do something on like the Tonight Show, like they do in this one, where they're just kind of like, well, we're probably in the same building, so we're gonna film something over there, and you're gonna pretend to be this character, but like they don't really like blow up the way that you think they would. You know what I mean? Like, you think like some of these would be like, wow, like this is the Lonely Islanders. They made a movie. Like, oh my gosh, like this should be something that people ran out to see. But maybe it just wasn't like enough people knew about it because I didn't know about it.
Well, the previous movie that they worked on that actually I didn't watch until after this film was Hot Rod. And that one didn't do well either, but it has a cult following. And I think that that's where a lot of the Saturday Night Live sort of, comedian movies like go to, except for, obviously like Will Ferrell, Adam Sandler. There's certain ones that have just, blown up and done continuous big hits. Yeah. But for the most part, I think those other ones, it's like you like either somebody who just like watched it and like loves it, or like nobody knows what it is.
Yeah, oh, for sure.
That's just kind of how it is.
Yeah, okay. Well, my question for you is, what's your favorite song from this one?
Oh man. One of my favorite ones is probably the one he does with Pink, because Pink's also in it, where he tries to like sing this like gay pride anthem, in support, but at the whole time he's having like his own like masculine crisis, so he has to keep saying I'm not gay in the lyrics because he's so worried that singing this song and that's what makes his like that was, I mean, it's such a good character moment to be like, he's kind of an idiot and he's kind of like a jerk that he's like, oh, I want to do this thing, which you can tell he does it for the clout, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't come across that he cares so much. But at the same time, he wants to distance himself from it so badly. And I love as the song's going on, even Pink's like looking at him like, what is happening right now? Good. And the best part is at the end. Well, so yeah, there's a lot of, because it's a documentary, they cut to these other musicians as if they know the band and they know them really well. And they cut to Ringo Starr and he goes, I don't even know why he's singing about gay marriage equality. That happened like 3 years ago. Yeah. Like, and that just is like him trying to jump on the bandwagon, but jumping on it really late, which is like why he's failing. Other than that, my other favorite scene is the end. The whole last song is just so unbelievably ridiculous and wonderful, and Usher's there, and like it's the culmination of that entire movie just being absolutely absurd. I love how like Justin Timberlake is the fish.
It felt like that Katy Perry shark thing. That like when he came out with the fish costume, I was like,
and if you don't know that, you wouldn't really get the reference. Like it's still funny, but you wouldn't really get the reference. But I love how he's like, I'm the fish. Like it's like a big deal that he can sing. And Michael Bolton came back for it, which is amazing. So I like that whole ending because it's like the most absurd song in the universe. Yeah. But it's so catchy. It's just like, what is happening right now? But like I said, I think the movie actually has some heart to it. I think it's cute. You know, they have that moment where like they bring his character to see the other old bandmate on his farm.
Yeah.
Like that's one of them just gave up and was like, I'm like, you know, going to farm now. And they have that whole moment where first he keeps blaming, like Connor keeps blaming the other bandmate. Like he keeps trying to turn it around and he's like, yeah. And you know what? I wrote most of the song. Okay, you wrote some of it. All right, you wrote most of it. And he's like, but you know, that's just because he's like, you know, we were in the recording studio and I was kind of late. Okay, I was really late. And like, he's starting to like slowly apologize, you know, and you have this like character moment where it's like, he kind of realizes that he messed up. And I think there's like a sweetness to it. It's kind of weird though, wrapped in the absurdity of the rest of the movie, that you're like, there is this like story of friendship.
Yeah.
But everything else is crazy.
Yeah, that's true. It's there's so much, there's a lot going on in this movie. It's happening all at once, it feels like sometimes. And I wish we could have had his character moments, like the ones that are in the songs, like that happen like in the real life stuff too, where like he was constantly trying to like overcome these things, or like there's just that song about the Osama bin Laden stuff.
Oh my god,
I was like, oh my gosh, like what?
Say
like,
no more.
So like, and again, I say this to people who haven't seen this movie. If you had seen it, you would be like, oh, I know what you're talking about. And I can't explain it any further than that because it would kind of ruin the whole point of it. But it's just so absurd, and you just really have to see it to understand it. It's just like, wow. They kind of did whatever they wanted in this movie, and I think that's some of that freedom that you wouldn't get on SNL, because like with this, they could do anything they wanted, you know, because there's like, it's R-rated. I can just say anything. But
again, I think it's just that commentary on like some of these artists who skyrocket to stardom and think that they can do anything and put anything out and it's going to be a success, and it's not. You know, so. Yeah, it's the movie is that like my brain. I'm going through like all of these scenes now, and I'm like, oh my god, there is a lot going on.
There's a lot going on.
But I love it. Also, I think some of the really good songs are surprisingly ones that are not like in the film. They're like in the credits, or they're on the album. Like if you listen to the album,
sure.
There's some really good like credits music that didn't make it into like the full film. But so after I saw that movie, I remember saying to Rob, oh man, I really wish they like went full tilt with this and like said, we're going to do a Connor for Real concert. Like that would be hilarious. Probably would never make any money though, right? Sure, because like nobody saw this. But last year, The Lonely Island went on tour. for their first tour that they've ever done. They've put out all this music for like, I don't know how many years. And they finally did a tour. And it was like that moment where I was like, oh my God, everything I ever wanted is realized. So obviously I saw them in concert, and he did do a Connor for Real snippet. He did like a few of his songs dressed up in character, came out on like this throne, like it was crazy. But it was interesting because they went through basically like all of their biggest hits, obviously. But for that, it was like in character and like in situation of that movie, which was really cool. So
it was a good concert.
Yeah. It was amazing. It was sold out. I
was gonna say, it'd be sad if it wasn't sold out. You and Rob sitting there alone.
No, it was actually me and my husband, Peter.
Rob didn't go.
No, because he had moved by this point.
Oh, gotcha.
It was last summer. He would have went if yeah. It was an outdoor concert, and so it was like on a rooftop. It was sold out. I mean, I can't say I've ever experienced standing in a whole crowd of people absolutely screaming the words to "I'm on a boat," but I've done it now. And people had such a good time that like coming out of the concert, people were like still singing songs. There were people like driving cars, leaving the concert blasting like Lonely Island. Like it was like, but it was funny because it's like they're a comedy music group. It's not like we just went to see Beyonce.
Yeah, that's true.
But people were so just, I don't know. It's just like it was like fun to get together with a bunch of fans of something that niche. Mm-hmm. And then people just like carrying on that energy after the show was like so fun.
Totally.
Yeah, it was definitely the weirdest, but one of the most fun concerts I've ever been to.
I feel like it's like a new age Weird Al Yankovic kind of situation, a little bit, where it's like he's got like a following, they've got a following enough, and it's like if you meet fans of this thing, they are the fans of it. You're not like a passive fan, like you know a lot.
Oh no, like this. Everyone, including myself, is singing like every word to every song, and like Peter is like he's a fan of certain songs, but he's not as like into it.
Yeah. And
he was just looking around like, what is
He's like, what did I get myself into? What have I done?
Basically.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say my favorite thing. I don't think you'd be able to guess my favorite thing from this film. Do you want to take a shot in the dark quick?
Like your favorite song or your favorite scene?
Just favorite anything. Just take a shot. I'd be amazed if you got it. It's a small thing.
Is it the funeral for his turtle?
No, it's not the funeral for his turtle. Is so spoilers. But yeah, that part, the whole like, it's like Viking funeral, the Viking funeral, and then like all of like his friends like jump into the pool, and he's just standing there, just like, like no, it is not that. It is the TMZ ripoff of CMZ.
Yes,
which is so funny because I've only seen TMZ like in snippets of this much.
But you know enough.
They nailed it. And my favorite bit, I think it's Will Arnett. So for anybody who doesn't know what TMZ is this kind of this pop culture or celebrity kind of like they try to get the scoop on everybody, and they're kind of like they sit in an office and they kind of like make fun of celebrities and stuff. And the main guy on the show is always like drinking from like some sort of like weird container cup thing with a straw. And so they decided to like have Will Arnett do this eventually, and then he put it down, and then he'd bring up another one, and they put it down, and then two would be together, and then he put those down, and he'd bring it up, and be like three taped together, and they'd all just be laughing at each other, and like
in a fake laugh.
Yeah, like this
like, you know, they don't even like each other.
Yeah, they hate everything and everyone, and like one guy at one moment's like, hey, maybe he's trying to do that because he's trying to be like a good human being, and they're all like, nah, of course not. They're all like, ah, ha, ha. And like it was so funny. They just cut back to it randomly, which was so like that thing. I thought was like, wow, good job, guys. Like,
it was like one of those weird little things that pops up maybe 3 times in the whole movie, but like really adds, like, it's just so funny. It's just so funny. Yeah, that is definitely, I mean, and also Will Arnett, like he's just so good.
Every time I think of him in Blades of Glory as that brother sister combo, and he's laying on the bear rug, and he talks about the other two, and he's like, "What a couple of freaks!" And like he's sitting there, like holding this bear rug. He's so good, man. Will Arnett is just, he commits so fully to like the super creep. But yeah, I loved that. I thought it was just, I like that popped up. I'm like, what is this? I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, you guys nailed it.
I think the cameos are impressive in this movie. Like, I mean, they got everything. They got Mariah Carey. Like I said, they have Usher, like literally playing is like a big fan of them. It's like the cutest thing. That's literally why I dance. Like, I love that whole thing. They had Ringo Starr. They had, oh my gosh, who's the guy I'm thinking of that always says like really DJ Khaled.
Oh gosh.
I mean, yeah, like everyone that you could think of playing themselves, talking about a group that doesn't really exist as if they do. And we're like a big part of the music industry. It's like a really weird alternate reality kind of. But yeah, I think that kind of, and they happen so quick, you know, they don't try to like lean too hard on like, look at this person we got. It just happens really quick and just naturally. And then you just got like, oh, that's that, you know, and then that's it. Then they kind of just like move on. So
yeah, because they could have easily done that. It could have been like, oh, hey, Mariah Carey's his best friend, and she would have to be like in a bunch more scenes, and it would be like really forced. You'd be like, that's not like.
So I'm the most humble person I know.
That whole bit, I was like, I can't believe they got her to say that. Like,
I
was like.
I think she knows.
I thought it was so funny because she said it, and it was just like at the beginning, I was like, oh, it's gonna be this type of movie. I was like, they're gonna get people to say things like this, and she was the only one who really had that. I thought they were gonna really try to make other people like. I thought, you know, they get Ringo Starr to say something kind of demeaning about the Beatles or something, where you'd be like, you know, I was in a band, but nothing compared to these guys, you know, like. But yeah, I did like the cutaways to some of those people, because I was like, okay, I get it. When they showed Questlove at first, I'm like, oh, there's like some Tonight Show stuff. And then they're like on the Tonight Show. I'm like, okay. I was like, it's like there he is. I was like, they just kind of pull people in. You know?
That was actually an interesting scene too. The Jimmy Fallon, the like Tonight Show scene. Yeah. I actually really like that scene.
You like that scene?
Like they wanted to do the donkey roll. That's I freaking love that dance. That's the dance that the original Style Boys put together. And they're like, and he's like, they're like, come on, do it. And he wants to be separated because he's like, well, I'm me. I'm my own artist now. I don't want to go back to the old stuff. And it's like a really weird, uncomfortable moment where he's forced to do this thing that he doesn't want to do. But like, it was actually a very interesting scene.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. And he played it really well because, like, you know, there is like, oh, yeah, I saw one of your other buddies back there, the guy who I love, who the other, so the trio split up, one of them left. You know, one of them went to the forefront, and the last one was like, yeah, I am the DJ, and I hit the play on an iPod now. And
then he's like, I'm listening to some Harry P.
Yeah,
he's got a Harry Potter book on tape.
Well, and they give him like this ridiculous huge helmet because EDM is all the rage. It like shoots off a giant like basically light beam to the sky, and it plays like this really crazy noise, which it happens inadvertently one point. But I love, so he comes out and like. It like forces Connor to do this thing, and he does it, but he's like really resentful of it. He's like, I didn't want to do this, and I was like, that seemed like more realistic than most anything else. It would almost be like if you got Justin Timberlake on and be like, hey, well, guess what? The rest of NSYNC's back there. You want to do Bye 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 right now? And he'd
and you just throw it on the person, like out of nowhere. I think those scenes are the most interesting ones, honestly. Even like the whole fight that they have in the limo, like those are the moments where you actually get more insight into what's going on, you know?
Yeah, oh, totally. That fight in the limo, relatively distracting at some moments, which I was like, I don't know, like for me, I was like, oh man, I was like, I guess we're doing this now. Because I could kind of see where it was going to go, and then it went in a very different direction.
Did you know that was Judd Apatow?
I believe it.
Well, now you do.
Well,
probably the only person who was willing to do that.
Yeah, I bet. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, oh no. But yeah, it was like nice to see them like, you know, throughout it wasn't just like, oh, I thought they were gonna have him, the guy in Colorado. He was just gonna be like the one bandmate who was just always, they cut back to it. And he's like, yeah, that guy sucks, and like, but no, it was kind of like trying to reform and rekindle that sort of thing, which I'm glad that like that's how the movie, like, that was more the focal point.
I also do love when they cut to him. Now I'm remembering all the names that they had because it was like Kid Connor, Kid Contact, and Kid Brain. That was the names in the group. And Kid Brain's the one who does the farming. But they're like, he tried to do his own solo thing. And it's like that weird song, Things in My Jeep. And Park is on it. That's the part that like Chester is singing in the song, which is sad because he passed, I think, like a year or two after that. And I'm just like, what is going, like, I love that they just like cut to like him putting out this awful song.
Yeah.
He just like, and for some reason that doesn't take off, but all the awful songs that Connor puts out take off.
Well, and then you get like the DJ doing his own thing later on, and he's like this like, amazing, like everybody's loving it, and then he starts doing like his little vocal part, and everybody's like, oh, he's really bad at it, and he's just like, he's like, my singing sucks, but like everything else is pretty good, like, you know, you're like, oh, like I feel bad for that guy because he complains about him. He's like, yeah, that big helmet you gave me, it's kind of giving me like back problems and stuff, and I can't really see out of it super well, and they're like, shut up, you're not really part of this, and he's like, but I'm one of the. And he's like, no, you're not, you know, go have a meeting with somebody else, and it's like, oh. That poor guy.
There is I mean, it's interesting that for as silly of a movie it is, there is really like a lot of those little moments that make sense while it culminates to the big fight. Because if it just came out of nowhere, you'd be like, what? But you see the way that they treat him over and over again. You see like how the other one feels resentful, and it actually makes sense. It's not just like, oh, now we're just fighting for the heck of it, you know?
Yeah, oh, totally, yeah. There's definitely something to this one, though. It's weird, also, anytime I see Tim Meadows, and there's other movies that have done this ever since, maybe, like, Mean Girls a little bit, but, like, hear him, like, just swearing and stuff like that, or, like, attacking somebody, it's, like, so I'm not ready for it.
At the end, when he's like, did you see that? Did you see what I did? Exactly. He's so proud of himself.
Yeah. I was like, I thought for a second there they were going to bring him back. I'm like, no, this guy's not a good dude. I was like, he's like the Tony, and Tony. I was like, don't trust this guy. He's not, he'll betray you quickly. But speaking of betrayals, I do love that the guy they do bring on, that other rap artist, like later on, he goes a half hour over his, like, he's supposed to be on there, his set. And so Connor wants to go out, and this rap artist is like, he's like, you better give me a bedpan because I'm never leaving this stage or whatever. So Connor goes out and basically tries to force him out. And when he finally does, you find out this guy, this like Hunter Hungry or whatever, he says to him, he basically says, he reveals that he was a guy who kind of ruined one of his last shows. He's like, it was me. I was the guy who pulled that prank on you. He's like, it was me. And like, he just says that, and he like walks off, and Connor's like, wait, what? And he's like, I love to see like the power switch there, because it's just
and again, it's that thing of like having the opening act. Now the opening act is more popular than the main act. And like, you know, like that was all really, and like, he's supposed to be like the underground rapper, you know, like that because he hit the stuff he like raps is like really hardcore, like compared to the sound of Connor, which is more poppy. Like, it's really interesting at like how they created the music to like really fit the characters and like what's going on.
Yeah, because I guess they had to write for him too.
Right. And even before that, when the whole prank first happens, which is, I mean, basically, what is he? He has like a unitard or like leotard, and he's trying to do like a costume change.
Yeah.
And in one of the costume changes, he doesn't make the change. So he's just in this like skin colored leotard, and it looks like he's naked, and you know, all this other stuff is going on. And I love how he comes backstage and he's like, maybe it was me. Nah, it wasn't. But what if it was? Like, his like facial expressions, it just cracks me up, that whole back and forth. It's like, that's the moment when you're like, okay, can I trust this guy? And at first it's painted as like, he's just the prankster. That's just what he does. But then you realize it's like more vindictive than that. You know?
Yeah, totally. I wish, Christine, it was a skin-tight leotard, because actually he's fully naked, but he has to adjust himself so that way he can make the switches.
Oh, I
And that's
thought
what it is. So people,
I really was thinking.
so people see him and they're taking pictures and they like, there's making a bunch of jokes and they're like, it's okay, Connor, they didn't see anything. Connor's like, I wish they did see
Yeah,
something, because
yeah.
he's like really offended by it. Like, I wish that would have been reactionary and then he could have thrown that on his album. Like, he could have made like a whole song about that. He'd be like, no, trust me, like, I'm a guy. Like, it was so, like, that moment I was like, oh my gosh. They got their use out of that one stadium though, or whatever they were shooting in, because they kept like the concerts are in the same places.
Yeah.
It seemed like. But there were some other funny things, like with when they were talking about that they were like the two banditos or whatever, and they're like on stage with like two big sombreros and they're just kind of like dancing around.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, that's great. But then Connor talks later on, he's like, yeah, when I was in Spain, like, I realized that everyone there pronounced their S's like a TH. So he's like, I made a whole song about that. And I was like, oh my gosh. Like,
he's an idiot. Like,
yeah.
and I mean, that's the thing. Like, they don't, like, his character's just an idiot. It's like one of my favorite lines when he's like, that's more than, he's like, whatever he says, he's like, no, don't worry, you were only up there for 10 seconds. And he goes, 10 seconds, that's already a third of the way to Mars. And he's like, 30 seconds to Mars is the name of a band, not a scientific fact.
I wanted that joke to be there, but with him not explaining it, because I got it like right away. I was like, oh God, he thinks it's 30 seconds to Mars.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, and I was like, now you just need Jared Leto to show up, but there was no Jared.
No.
But it's still,
like, I love that it's just like he's just kind of dumb. like, and it's kind of like that's part of his character. That's just who he is. Like, he's just like somebody who ended up getting thrown to stardom, but he isn't really that intelligent and like,
yeah. He's got like 32 people on his payroll, which I thought was also really funny in the beginning, because he's got like all these people for like hyper specific jobs, and like there's like some guy who come and punch him and to remind him from where he's from, or like whatever, and like that's like that guy's job. And it's like such a pop star thing that you hear about, where it's like, oh yeah, they've got a few people on the payroll, one person's job is to do this one thing, and that's all they ever do.
Take the red M&Ms out of the bowl, or like all those things you hear. He says like there's the one guy he pays to be shorter than him.
The perspective
guy, fun fact, when I watched this movie, I lost my mind because he is actually a recurring character in Buffy.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Oh. And I was like, wait, I know this guy.
Amazing.
Pretty short. So I can see why they put him.
I hope that guy got paid a decent amount, and they're like, all right, so you're going to be on the show, you're going to be in this movie, and you're no speaking lines. You're just going to walk up and pose next to Andy for like maybe 5 minutes, 10 minutes, guys. Yeah. That's going to be about it. And like, they're like, all right, here you go. Like, I love that. It was a forced perspective guy or perspective guy. Like, I was like, that's very funny. But
then I mean, again, that comes to full circle at the end where he does the test, because he's like, you can't be surrounding yourself with a bunch of yes men. Like, nobody's telling you that your music sucks. Nobody's helping you be successful when everyone's just saying, everything you do is great. And so he does the test where he makes the pancakes, pancakes, waffles, whatever, and he basically puts like dog poop in them to see, will these people be honest with me and tell me that it sucks? Yeah. And of course they're like eating it and they're like, this is so great. And then the one other ex-bandmate is like, this tastes horrible. Like, what are you doing? Yeah. And but it's almost like a little kid test of like, this is how I know this is my true friend. It's like, that's how he has to like figure it out basically. But yeah, I mean, it's interesting that like you think in the beginning like, oh, it's just a thing making fun of celebrities who hire people for these specific things, but then it actually becomes a plot point. Like, oh,
totally. You know? And it becomes the breaking point for that one bandmate. And then like, and Connor's like, I put food on the table, and he's like, yeah, but like, this is the food. Like, it's not good. And he's like, you know what, man? I've been too nice for too long. I'm out. Like, and I enjoyed that, where he's kind of like, that was the breaking point. Like, he's like, why did you have to test me, dude? Like, he's like, I don't know you tested me.
Right. Like, it shouldn't have happened. Right. Yeah. Like, I also love when he just gives up and starts drawing horses.
Yeah.
And selling them on eBay.
Yeah, for $11.50. He's like, not Connor for real numbers, but
But he felt so good about it.
Yeah, he got it. He didn't need the money anymore. He's fine. He's just watching cats and watching his mom's house, watching some Naruto or whatever's on the TV. I was like, oh my gosh, this is great. Yeah, okay, but I could see, like, it's great to see your passion for this movie, for a movie that wasn't, not a lot of people talk about, because, like, when you brought this up to me, I was like, I've never watched it. So
Yeah.
it got me to watch something I probably wouldn't have watched otherwise. So for that, I thank you.
So,
And
what did you think overall of it? Like,
uh,
find yourself, were you like, oh, this was as bad as I thought it was going to be, or were you like, nah, that's good. The one time was fine, and that was what I expected, and you know.
I'll say this: if I was hanging out with you in person, I would watch it with you. I'd watch it with a fan again because I would probably appreciate it much more. Again, comedies are so tricky because in this day and age, it's so easy to watch stuff by yourself, and comedies are supposed to be meant to like watch with a group,
Yeah,
kind of thing.
they're very subjective. Like
Yeah.
everyone's sense of humor is incredibly different,
Oh,
and
totally.
like I don't expect everyone to like. I think humorous music is funny. Some people were just like, nah, I wouldn't touch that. Like I think that's silly. You know what I mean? So like and that's why I said before this, like I'm very picky about comedies because I just think it's a very subjective thing.
Oh,
So
totally. Yeah.
you hope I love when you like give someone a comedy and you're like, do you find it funny? I hope you find it funny. Are you laughing?
Yeah, exactly. Like you feel like, and I feel like that with any piece of art, like a game or a movie, and I like send it, like it's like I made it, but I didn't, and I like give it to someone. I'm like, did you like it? And they're like, well, and then I think to myself, well, I didn't like make that Amazon like TV show, but like I still feel kind of responsible for sharing it with you. You know what I mean?
So much, sure. Yeah. You want, I think it's like you find joy out of something and you really hope that someone else also finds that joy, you know?
Oh,
really
totally.
all it is.
Yeah. But you ask a good question. I think I went in with very low expectations. And you know what? There were moments that superseded that. And there were moments that I enjoyed. I thought it was pretty good, all things considered. I don't think I don't think it deserved to do as poorly as it did. I wonder, and this would have kind of maybe ruined the movie. I don't think making it PG-13 and trying to sell it and market it more would have made it way more successful.
Mm-hmm.
But I wonder if that was the issue, because this movie is very raunchy for like hyper specific moments. Like some like R-rated movies do that the whole time. This one does it just like here and there. It's not throughout. It's more about the intelligence of the jokes of the songs.
Yeah, and I think those moments are meant to be shocking, right? Because you're not so inundated with it the whole way through.
Yeah.
So like the Osama bin Laden song, you're like, whoa, what?
Yeah.
Like you're supposed to have that reaction.
Yeah,
right?
Totally. That's what they want. So that's sort of thing. I think there was a lot more times where I was laughing because I was like shocked at like what they were tackling, because I was like, oh, they would never do something like that in this film, and then they started doing that. I'm like, I guess we're going here. Like I was like, you have to be along for the ride in a comedy, and this one even more so. And I think it helps if you have any type of understanding of the music industry, and if you were like really into pop and rap and stuff, and you see these people who are really prominent in like this music, and you see them giving like these little kind of like little interviews, and it's like, oh my god, they got such and such. That's hilarious. Because if you don't, you're like, great. And they like edit people. They edit stuff in it, like award shows, like they'll show like Steven Tyler somewhere, but like they didn't get Steven Tyler to do an interview. I like to think they asked him to do one, and he was like, like that. I would have lost it if like Steven Tyler would have been sitting somewhere, but like just like be like, oh, Connor for Real is the greatest thing ever. Like that would have been like, for me, I would have been like, wow. But yeah, no, I thought it was pretty good. I honestly think, again, you watch it with a group of people, watch with people who love Lonely Island. If you don't like Lonely Island, though, I would highly suggest you avoid it, because it's like Lonely Island.
It's the movie. Reach. Yeah. Like, I definitely agree.
You have to be a big fan. But then again, that's the same way I feel about like with The Hobbit and like Lord of the Rings. I love Lord of the Rings, and I probably wouldn't recommend The Hobbit to people if you didn't like Lord of the Rings. I feel like it's like, you're not going to love it. I love it, but you're not going to love it. It's okay. It's all right. But yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I really...
I'm just having thoughts about The Hobbit now. I saw that in theaters. I can't remember how I felt about it. I do know growing up, The Hobbit was one of my favorite books in like elementary school through like junior high. But then like I watched the movie and
book's better than the movie.
It just glossed, like I don't remember.
That's well, that's the problem. Like when you take a book, okay, you take a book that's like this big, and they're like, make it into 3 films. Like I get 3 books, 3 films, like for Lord of the Rings, but then they're Hobbit. They're like, we're gonna stretch this out, and Peter Jackson's like, okay, all right, let me do this. Like Guillermo del Toro is gone. Okay, I'm gonna do this. It's like, I don't envy that. I shouldn't compare everything to Lord of the Rings, but I feel the same way though. Like when you said kind of like giving this movie or kind of recommending it to me, where you're like, it's kind of like a piece of yourself. You're like, I love it. I hope you enjoy it as well.
Yeah.
But it like gives me more insight into the psyche of Christine.
I
love it. No, this is good. It's just information. It's good these are good things to know. That way I know like what things you like, so that way if I ever one day when I become famous, I can be like, hey Andy, like we should go probably hang out with my friend Christine sometime at Disneyland. Like it might.
That would be a perfect day.
Yeah, literally. and then I could like fade into the background, and you wouldn't even notice I was gone. You'd be like, oh, what, Jimmy? Who? What? Yeah, no, but I thought it was pretty entertaining. There are definitely moments though that stand out to me, both shocking and also very funny. That I was like, okay, good, because if a comedy can make me laugh a few times by myself, that's pretty good, because I think it's so much harder when you're sitting alone and you're just kind of like watching a thing. But yes, so again, this is one of your favorite movies of all time, right?
Yeah, it's up there.
Okay, good. That's why I want to make sure that you're not like, well, it's like top 10 or something like that. This is
I would put it, definitely one of my favorite movies of the last 10 years.
Okay.
And one of like, as far as comedy genre, it's like way up there for me.
Sure.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Well, we don't have all the time in the world, Christine, because we're both such busy people, and I don't want to take you and just talk, because we could talk about this for hours. I feel like this is the opening salvo for you.
Would you like to know the history of the Lonely Islanders?
You're like, and here's my thesis and TED Talk on the Lonely Islanders. So you're like, Andy Samberg was born. And you're like, oh no. What have I done? We're going to do fast versions of the last 2 segments of the show, but this next segment is the segment that I like to call Time Killers. You know it, Christine. What have you been killing time with, huh?
I have been playing a lot of Beat Saber. So,
yes. Oh my gosh, Christine.
So here's the weird thing. I bought this game months ago and kind of like played it a little bit, dropped off. I dropped off my PSVR for a bit, you know?
Yeah.
Literally like 3 or 4 days ago, I was like, all right, let's give this a go. And I am obsessed. Like I've been playing every night after work. Like I am nailing the hard level. Nice. I actually finished a couple expert level. Whoa. Finished. Not saying I did really great, but
it's a tough game.
But oh man, I'm absolutely loving it. And then I have also been playing an old game that I've never played before. Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, which came out in like 2000 and you're just laughing at me.
I love it.
2000 something. It's one of these games where like people love it and claim it's like such a good RPG, and I just really wanted to know why. Yeah. I mean, it's no secret I like the idea of vampires, love Buffy and stuff like that.
Like
so
Buffy?
I was like, what? I was like, okay, that already has my attention.
Yeah.
But I was just like, why do people still, this game is like 17 years old. Why are people still talking about it and loving it? And there's a sequel coming out, I think, this year. Yes. So I was like, today's the day we're going to jump into this. So I've been playing it on and off, and it's actually really good.
Good.
It's kind of janky because it's
a little older. Yeah, it's fine.
But the voice acting is really good, and the story's actually really interesting. So I'm getting it now. Like, I feel like I'm understanding why people love it so much.
Yeah. Have you looked into Vampire at all? It's with the Y.
I have, and I heard things about it, but I do know that it's been on sale a lot lately. Mm-hmm. So I figure I could probably pick it up at a sale price. I've heard that, what they had, like the idea behind it is strong, but how they actually executed was not great. So
it's fine. I actually got all the way through it. I got way more into it later on because I just went full, like, I'm just going to kill anybody who gets in my way, like kind of thing. Cool. I was like, and he just started like feasting on people, and there's like a lot of like risk reward type things because it's kind of studio. But I think you might enjoy it if it's on sale heavily. I think you might get a kick out of it. So yeah. Oh, did you try Rap God on Beat Saber yet?
No.
Oh, it's ridiculous.
I
Uh,
mean, yeah, I only just started playing the 90-degree levels that I didn't even realize you could do, where the notes, it switches and the notes are all coming at you from, it's crazy.
I
It's
have a hard enough
absolutely-
time with it coming head on. That's like me. That's like me trying to play Rock Band in a mirror. Like I'll just be like, I can do this. I can play Say Eight so almost by not looking at it, but I can't. I'm not going to do it like that. Okay, that's fine. All right, so you've got some stuff going on. That's good. Mine's pretty brief. Just going through Gears of War and Valkyria Chronicles 4. Valkyria Chronicles, I love it. And last but not least, I'm at the very, very end of Fuller House, and for some odd reason, I love that show.
What?
Yes.
Why?
Why? Because you know what? Some of the writing on that show, they nailed it. I actually get a good laugh out of almost every episode. At least one. I don't know what it is. There's some.
Who's paying you?
No one's paying me. Sorry, Netflix isn't paying me. I really enjoy it, and it's like season 5, so it's the very ending of all of it now. And yeah, some of it isn't as great, or maybe as strong as like the original show, but I don't know. There's clearly some talent there, and there's some really, really good actors on there who I just think I'm like interested to see what they go do next. Now that they're not going to do this anymore, because sitcoms could go on forever, you know. But and Netflix, for a show to go more than like 2 or 3 seasons on Netflix is always interesting to me.
Yeah,
you know, because I'm like, they usually give them 2 seasons and they're like, you're done, like, you know. So yeah, we'll see. Anyway, that's it for Time Killers. Let's move into my last personal favorite segment of the show, which is community feedback and questions. And Christine, we have some questions for you. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
You're ready? Okay, are you sure? I don't know. These are pretty hard ones. Okay.
I'm an open book, so absolutely.
First question is, Missile Mage on Discord asks, can we talk about how Brother Bear is the most underrated Disney movie?
We can, but I have nothing to say about it because I've never seen it.
You've never seen Brother Bear?
Sorry.
Oh, you got to see Brother Bear. You got Disney Plus. That's your homework.
Okay, I can make that homework.
He also said, also Brave is awesome. Have you seen Brave?
I have.
Okay,
yes.
Seen Brave.
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because I think it does get a bit of representation in the parks. I mean, Meridia's in a lot of the parades, and she's a great character, and it's actually part of the fireworks, Happily Ever After. Though to be fair, everything's part of that Ever After. But at the same time, you don't see a lot of merch. You don't see a lot of, like, I don't know. I think it is a really good, strong movie, and maybe Merida's just like a good character, so they cling to that. But yeah, I really liked Brave, but I haven't seen it. God, I saw it in theaters, and then I saw it like one more time after that, and I haven't seen it since. So
I'm with you too. I haven't really seen it for a long time. I think I saw it in the theaters, and then after that, the weird thing about Brave is it's like a mother-daughter movie, but they didn't market it that way. It was more of like, what if this redheaded, you know, archer was fighting a bear? And like, you know, it wasn't like, and it's Pixar, so you know there's going to be some sort of kind of emotional family tie thing,
right?
But maybe that was the problem, and it was like one of like Walt Disney's maybe original kind of or ideas from way back that they pulled forward. But I know every time I bring this up, everybody wants to hear this, so I'm gonna do it for you guys once. But if you could change your fate, would you? You like that?
That's way better than anything I could do. I'm not even gonna try it.
I'm waiting. You know what, Pixar, call me up, or Disney Animation Studios. I'd love to be in your films. He brought up Jump In too. Have you ever seen Jump In? I've never seen Jump In.
No.
Okay, apparently that's a
I
Disney
know what
movie.
it is. Now I'm trying to think.
Look up Jump In. I was playing Disney, like, I don't know if it's Trivial Pursuit with my family, basically, but there's so much live action Disney stuff that I have no clue. Like, it's just nothing. I know
that's
nothing.
definitely where my knowledge just like drops off.
Yeah.
I just do not know.
Yep. Nope. And then like the second one was all about their like straight to DVD sequels, and I was like, you've lost me so much. I'm like,
oh God. Speaking of on
uh-oh.
On Rob's Patreon Discord, he does this like they'll watch different Disney movies streaming, and he got me to watch the Hunchback sequel.
Yes,
it was awful. I don't even know, in my head, it's not even canon. I don't even care. The animation was abysmal.
Yeah.
Like if you side by side, like just look up both movies and like side by side a character or something. Awful. Yeah. I don't know.
I don't know how to see it.
No.
I can't believe you haven't seen it before. I'm surprised.
I actively avoided it for decades.
Okay.
And the only reason I chose to do it, he was like, everyone's asking you to come on and watch it. And I said to him, I'll do it, but I'm not going to like it. And I didn't like it.
Did you guys also watch like some sort of like Cinderella 3 and it was like a time traveling movie?
That, yeah, I wasn't there for that one. But
Cinderella 3 about time travel?
Apparently pretty bad. Yeah.
Yeah, I recently watched through the Aladdin sequels, and man,
those are pretty good.
Yeah, but Return of Jafar is... It took me so long to get through that one, but then 40 Thieves is so much better, and it's not just because Robin Williams is back, but like that movie's got some really good songs in it, and it just moves at a quick clip. But for some odd reason, Return of Jafar is like...
I think they're both comparatively to other sequels stronger than most of the other sequels. Yeah.
No question. I still have to go watch the old Aladdin TV show, which I thought was pretty good too. There was like a bad guy who was like a little tiny volcano man. I don't remember his name, but I remember thinking that was pretty cool. I was like, whoa! Like I remember seeing this stuff because I didn't have cable as a kid. I'd go to the Disney parks and like in the beach club, they'd have that on like I was like, Aladdin's got a TV show. I was like, what? And maybe it was on like regular TV too, but I never knew about this stuff. And I was like, what the heck?
ABC? I don't know.
Maybe, yeah. I gotta finish Gargoyles. Oh man. Okay, one day. That's okay. All right, last question. We're gonna go through it real quick here. All right, this comes in from Fraggin. He says, has there ever been a moment in real life where in a conversation, someone low-key trashes on a game you hold near and dear to your heart? He said for him, that game was Destiny. An example was while my supervisor was asked about if they liked Halo and if he thinks that they would ever make an open world Halo game. His answer was, well, they kind of did. It's called Destiny, but that game just fell flat. I wanted to step in and explain to him how much the game has changed and evolved since its first release. Emotions stirred. I was not mad, but the urge to give this epic speech in the great name of Destiny hit me. Would love to hear your accounts, if any. Any games people have trashed on besides me? No, I was kidding.
Yeah, so Rob loves to trash on Dark Souls all the time, so I just have to...
Quietly.
He tries to bait me, is really what that is. So I hold it inside. One of these days, I'm just going to show up at his house and just be like, sit down, we're talking for 3 hours, I'm going to tell you about how amazing Dark Souls is. I think the other one is that gets a lot of flack is BioShock Infinite. And I always have to stop myself from like going into why I think that's such an amazing game. And the argument against it's always like, the combat was okay. And I'm like, okay. And everything else was amazing. Yeah. Like, here's why. But like, I constantly see that game get knocked all the time. And yet everyone forgot that BioShock 2 was a thing, which I'm not saying was a bad game. But as far as the trilogy goes, I think it's the worst of the three.
Yeah.
That game somehow just gets a pass. Nobody talks about it.
Yeah.
But Infinite, everyone like has something to say. And I just think that game is so brilliant.
It's a cool game. I agree with you.
Yeah, so I think for me, when games get negative feedback based on one aspect of the entire thing, that's where I get a little, because I'm like, I can agree with you that I think that one part maybe could have been better, but I think when 85% of the game is like amazing, I don't think it's fair to be like, well, I didn't like that one thing.
Yeah.
So it's just not a good game.
Totally.
You know?
Totally. That's a good account. For me, I don't know. I don't really have that happen like too often. I think like for me, I always have to, I'm like a Gears of War apologist. Like, a lot of people are like, that game is just for bros and stuff. Yeah. Like there's a good lore to it. There's like some interesting stuff. It's kind of scientific. And it is so satisfying to chainsaw through things. Yeah. And I know you're more of like a PlayStation person for the most part, right?
I had a 360 back in the day.
Okay.
I don't know why Gears never, maybe because it was very marketed as a bro-y thing.
And
don't get me wrong, I played Doom to no end, so it's not like I'm against bro-y marketing.
Yeah.
But something about Gears just didn't, I think the marketing just didn't hit with me, and that's why I never played it.
Yeah, that's why we need to just, throw down together someday, and I'll be like, I can show you. I'll be like, it's a whole new world. just like chainsawing. Yeah, just.
That's what you had to say to me, because my brain was like, well, I like to chainsaw things in Doom, so maybe I would like to chainsaw.
Oh, chainsaw! Oh my gosh, I've had so many people who see the game and they're like, "Oh my god, you chainsaw? That's disgusting!" And then they try it and they're like, "I want to do that again." And I'm like, "That's right, we're all sadists inside." Like, yes, I love it. And it's against these creepy like aliens, but they're from underground, so not really aliens. It's a whole thing. But yeah, so Gears. And I did want to mention this at the very end because I said I'd bring it up. PlayStation 5. As we wrap up here, quick thoughts. I know Demon Souls you're probably really excited about.
Yes, but I think that the two things that I did, well, Demon Souls I danced in my seat for because I was watching by myself on my computer, but I was talking to people on Discord. I also very excited for the Miles Morales Spider-Man, even though there seems to be a back and forth on what is it? Is it a standalone? Is it a expansion? Is it something like what was that Uncharted game?
Lost Legacy. It's
which is
like that. Yeah.
It was like a $40 game, but it was still pretty lengthy, still pretty good. There seemed to be somebody was saying one thing.
Yeah.
And Insomnia Games saying the other thing. But I was really excited for that. It looked beautiful. And Resident Evil 8, obviously.
Oh, yeah, Resident Evil, yeah.
Which I am such a dork that I knew what it was from the font they used at the very beginning when they say something like his story comes to an end.
Oh, sure.
The font is a Resident Evil font.
Oh, cool.
So I just knew the first 2 seconds I was like, it's Resident Evil. Everyone's like, I don't know. And I was like, no, it definitely is. And then somewhere in the little like flashes of things, there's also a flash of the umbrella symbol. And I was just, I know it's going down. They're trying to pull a Resident Evil 7 where they're like, it's not, but it is.
Yeah.
And I'm really like, I was wiggling like this when I was watching the whole thing. I was very excited.
I think it's the stream's fault because I thought it looked like a budget like ripoff of Resident Evil 7 because it didn't look like right away. It looked kind of weird, and I was like, "Is this going to be the new Resident Evil?" I'm like, "Oh, it doesn't look like it has the budget behind it." And then when you like see the actual video later on that like streams better, you're like, "Oh, okay, like this is clearly that." But yeah,
New Horizon looks dope.
Yeah, I just want to see the gameplay, man.
I know. And Stray, the one with the cat with the backpack. I mean, how can you not like the cat with a backpack?
I will stand here and I will say I do not like the cat with the backpack, but I'm like the only person who's going to fight against the cat games.
It is the most like realistic looking cat I've ever seen.
Yeah, that's why I don't like it, Christine. I don't want to play. Oh, yuck. Get it out of here. Let me play as a tiger, for goodness sakes. I get it.
We looked at my cat and we were like, how do we get a backpack on her?
I've seen your pictures with it on a leash.
Yes, my husband's like, I don't think she'll like that. I was like, I don't care. I'm getting her backpack. I'm going to put little notes in it and then send them up and down to his office. And then, like a messenger cat. I'm going to do it.
I didn't think I could dislike cats more, but you've proven me wrong today. That's okay. No, I'm glad you love your cat. You're going to make it a carrier pigeon. Shout out quick to Beaten Down Brian, who's really excited about Gran Turismo 7, one of the few games that actually showed off gameplay. You know what? They showed off a racing game, and they actually showed it, and I respect it for that.
It's beautiful. I'm not a big racing game person, but I kept saying, wow, this just looks crazy good.
I always feel like the next gen has to launch with a racing game to be like, look at how sexy this car really looks. It's real, isn't it? You can touch it, and you're like, oh, yeah, you're right. And they actually, it was like kind of boring gameplay. It's like 30 seconds uncut, and I was like, but they showed it. And I was like, good on you. Good on you. And Ratchet and Clank, if the compression doesn't kill you in that stream, I mean, if you go back and watch the videos, it looks really cool. It's like, I want it to be good. And they also announced a new Pokemon Snap today, which I might be one of the only people who cares about it, but I am excited. You're not a Pokemon?
Oh, I wasn't. But people in my Discord are very excited, so it's not just you.
Yes.
They were talking about it today.
I was streaming that the other day. The original Pokemon Snap, over 20 years old.
Never played a Pokemon game. Can you believe it?
I believe it. And you know what? I don't hold anything against you for it. That's okay. If it's not, if it doesn't speak to you, you can't play every game. Someone said that to me today. You just can't.
I wish I could though.
You're like, just start slowly changing the channel. You're like, on this episode, we're going to talk about a video game the whole time. People be like, where's the Disney stuff? Start with a Disney game, like the Disneyland Connect game.
Magic Kingdom. NES.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. You got it. You got your in. Yeah, well, Christine, this is so much fun. I could talk to you for hours and hours, but I don't want to keep you and just like talk about why Demon Souls remaster or remake will be the greatest thing of all time, because I know so many people are excited about it. I hope it's good. I hope it's really good. I hope people are excited. But I think we should wrap up the show there, unless there's anything else you would like to say. any other feelings you want to get out? Express a thing that isn't completely Disney related. Get that moment.
I'm really excited about The Last of Us 2, which I pre-ordered, and my friend actually works at Naughty Dog, so he's a developer over there, so I feel like I can like support him in a weird way. I get very excited when I play their games, and at the end in the credits, I look for his name.
Aww.
He's my friend Ed, so every time I see him, I go, "There's Ed!" And I get very so yeah, very, very excited for that. That's like a couple of days from now.
Yeah, it is.
So close.
Yeah, it's very close. Yeah, you'd be able to just
stay away from all the spoilers.
Good job.
I know we're leaking things. Shut it down. So
no spoilers here. I'm sorry, it was all a dream. That's why I always tell people when someone's like, "Is there spoilers?" I'm like, "Yes." They found out it was all a dream, and they're like, "Oh, come on." I always wanted that like Harry Potter to end that way. He like woke up in the stairs, and he was like,
that would be the most depressing ending ever.
And he's like, "I'm still 11, and I'm never going to Hogwarts." You're welcome. I just figured out how to tie up the entire Harry Potter mythos in a nice little bow. Yeah, anyway, I still want to ride Hagrid's. One of these days I will. But anyway, thank you for everybody for watching. I appreciate it. If you have any questions or topics for future shows, all you have to do is tweet the hashtag Critical Podcast. You can tweet our official account, which is @GoCritical, or at me, I'm at JimmyGoods013. But if they want to tweet at you, Christine, where would they tweet?
You can tweet me at IvyWinterYT. I'm also on Instagram at IvyWinter.
Yeah, dude, Instagram. Get that Instagram game going. I'm trying to do more stuff on there, too. It's fun. I like a visual medium a little bit more. That's my thing. Thanks to everybody who's watching. Thank you to everybody who's donating their time over on Twitch to just watch along as I play through games, and to those donating to us over on Patreon. I appreciate it greatly. But instead of donating this week or asking you to donate any of that, please, please, please go check out, if you have any interest in Disney or just Christine's face in general, go check out Ivy Winter's channel. I really do enjoy it. I do watch pretty much everything you put out, and I really like it because like it's a genuine enthusiasm that I think that I exude as well, and I like to also kind of foster that in others. So you do a great job with that. And for someone who can't even be in the parks for the parks that are closed down right now, you still making stuff happen. But one of these days, Animal Kingdom After Hours, Christine.
I'm doing it.
It's amazing. Yeah. You'd love it. You'd be like, you're just like walking into Pandora. You're like, oh my gosh, am I in World of Warcraft? Like my sister was like, I can't even. This is like, I was like, yeah, this is really good. But Christine, again, thank you so much for being on the show. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you for dealing with Andy Samberg for a couple of years.
Christine, we're friends. I deal with anything for you. That's just what we do. It's my pleasure. I can't wait to make you watch or play through all the Pokemon games. So I'm just kidding. No, that's not fair. That's not fair. No, I would never make you do that. I would never make you do that.
The next 5 years of my life.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, for sure. Yeah. Oh, totally. Well, again, everybody, thank you so much. And until next time, just remember to adapt and overcome.